St. Augustine of Hippo was born in 354 in the town of Thegastes of North Africa. His mother was a Christian, but his father remained a pagan until late in life. Augustine lived in the Roman Empire. His family was not rich and made many sacrifices to give him a proper education. His father was proud of his success in the schools of Tagaste, and he was determined to send him to Carthage to prepare him for his forensic career. But unfortunately, it required several months to collect the money to send him to Carthage. When Augustine was 16, he had a year spent in idleness. He gave himself up to sinful pleasure. At first he prayed, but without a sincere desire to being heard. When he reached Carthage towards the end of the year 370, he was influenced greatly with the many seductions of the city. At age 17, Augustine fell in love with a woman whom he never named. Although Augustine largely downplays the relationship in Confessions, explaining that he was infatuated with the idea of romantic love and had no control over his lustful desires, it seems clear he loved her deeply. Unfortunately, however, he felt he could not marry her because she was of a lower social class. When he was 18, this mistress bore him a child, the son of his sins. Augustine wanted to change his ways. For a time he was attracted to Manichaeism, a Christian heresy to which he was devoted to for 9 years. Despite such attractions, over the years Augustine became increasingly dissatisfied with this. In 383 he departed from Carthage and headed to Rome. He arrived in Milan just before his 30th birthday, and it was here that he experienced one of the most famous conversions in Christian history. Augustine was greatly influenced by St. Ambrose of Milan. Augustine was unexpectedly influenced by the message itself that St. Ambrose gave. Augustine's internal conflict came to head in a garden in August of 386, as he sat tormented by indecision and powerlessness, finally weeping with despair and crying out to God. He thought he heard a child's voice chanting as if in a game, "Take and read, take and read." Understanding this to be a sign from God, Augustine opened his copy of Paul's epistles and read the first thing he saw. His eyes fell on Romans 13:13 through 14. Not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying, but put on the Lord Jesus Christ, and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lusts thereof. The newly converted Augustine was baptized along with his son and friend on Easter 387. After a year in Rome, Augustine eagerly headed home. In 395, Bishop Valerius nominated Augustine as his successor. The bishop died a year later, and despite his initial reluctance, Augustine devoted himself to his role as Hippo's new bishop. In May 429, the Vandal army began advancing across Africa. Arriving at Hippo a year later, Augustine was devastated by these events, but his trust in God bore him up, and he refused to flee and abandoned his flock. Hippo was under siege for 14 months, but after only 3 of these, Augustine fell ill with fever. St. Augustine died on 28th August 430 at the age of 76.